So first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here. You guys are here on a Saturday morning. At the beginning of summer. We could be out there getting ready for summer, having a good time, but I always like to say, those that come to this kind of meetings, we're not normal. And that's a good thing. It's good to be abnormal in that kind of sense. But I also believe it's our mission to go out there and teach to those that may need help, especially how to vote and how we can take back our state of California. But before we get to the politics, I just want to introduce myself, who I am, and why I'm running for sheriff. Like the introduction said, my name is Oscar Martinez, and I'm running to be the next sheriff of LA County. I came to this country from the Dominican Republic. That's a small country in the middle of the Caribbean. Grew up very poor. I came here when I was about 10 years old, and I still remember that day very well. It was about 30 years ago. I remember stepping out of the plane. It was in JFK, John F. Kennedy Airport in New York. And driving to the city from JFK, those that have been to New York, JFK is on the other side by Queens, on the other side of Queens. Driving to the city, I still remember seeing the skyline of the city of New York. For a 10-year-old from a poor country, that was a dream world right there. That was a dream come true. I grew up, believing that America was the greatest land in the world, the land of opportunity, literally where the streets were paved in gold and money just grew on the trees. Now we know that's not true, but for a 10-year-old at that time, it might as well have been true. I recalled, the poverty for the country that I came from, and I felt like I could do anything from now on. I grew up in the East Coast. I grew up mainly with my grandmother. She taught me a lot. We didn't have much, but she taught me a lot, and mainly, our faith, my Christian faith, and that's how I grew up. When I became an adult, my first career was I was going to be a priest. I was going to be a Catholic priest. So I went to Washington, D.C. to the seminary. That didn't work out. Obviously, I'm married now with 2 kids, but I kept my faith. Obviously, after that didn't work out, I joined the United States Marine Corps. And, there wasn't much difference between the Catholic Church and the Marine Corps. We have the structure, we have the hierarchy, we have the faith, and many people say Marines are brainwashed. And I don't think Marines are brainwashed, but we definitely believe in the values of the Marine Corps and everything that was taught to me in boot camp. I went there in 2000, which was right before 9/11. So when I went into the Marine Corps, it was, hey, you're going to be on a ship, you're going to go see the world, you're going to have a blast. Then 9/11 happened. We had a blast, but it was a kind of different blast. After that, I had the great honor of serving my country in combat in both Afghanistan and Iraq. I was one of the first units to land in Afghanistan, and I was definitely not the first unit to land in Iraq. Now, that being said, I am not putting myself in any way, shape, or form, in what many people went through in Iraq and Afghanistan. Many of our men and women, young men and women, an entire generation went there and didn't come back. Many of them came back without an arm, without a leg, and so forth. I was honored and blessed by my Lord to come back with all my digits, with all my limbs, and with all my sanity. So I do want to thank those veterans that left something behind in Afghanistan and Iraq. They are the real heroes. I am not a hero. I just happen to serve among real heroes. Did 8 years in the Marine Corps. In addition, with my combat tours, I also served in multiple embassies. That's what we call Marine security guards in different embassies throughout the world. And one of the experiences that I got from being in different embassies, especially India and other poor countries, it gave me a bigger appreciation of the United States and what this country is and what this country is capable of. I told you that when I saw the skyline of New York, that was a New York moment. And every time I went to those poor countries, every time I saw the poverty in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Bangladesh, in India, and so forth, I had what is called a New York moment. Because at that moment I said, thank God that I live in the United States, that I have the honor and privilege of being an American citizen. Because looking at so much poverty, that could have been me. That could have been my children, but it's not. So I have those what's called New York moment. I served my country, then I left the Marine Corps and I joined the Sheriff's Department, the LA County Sheriff's Department. The Army, when they're done with the service, they go and open businesses. Navy guys, they become doctors, engineers. Air Force, they become CEOs. Marines, we have 2 choices, prison or cop. That's pretty much it. I'm joking, those. There's great successful Marines, including our very own Vice President, J.D. Vance, of course. So I'm not disparaging. But we Marines usually become cops. And that's what I did. I became a deputy sheriff with the LA County Sheriff's Department, where I had the honor of serving in our jails, in courts, and of course in patrol, some administrative position. And today I am a lieutenant with the Sheriff's Department, so kind of mid-level manager with the Sheriff's Department. I can't complain. It's been a great career serving our communities. It's been a great honor to see so many different facets of life in our county, but it also has opened my eyes to the sufferings that we have here in the United States as well. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of people suffering, and our deputy sheriffs, your police officers out there, they are that thin blue line protecting those people, and they are the thin blue line protecting you from many of the criminal elements. So I do ask one thing for sure, even if you don't vote for me, is that when you see a cop out there and you get the chance to talk to them, just say thank you. Just say thank you for what you do. They may not be helping you at the moment, but they will help you someday, and they're definitely helping somebody. So just make sure you say thank you to them, because they're doing the Lord's work, and you know, they don't, now they have support, but we all remember during the riots, you know, everybody was talking about defunding the cops and so forth. That was a rough time. That was a rough time, and I'm glad that we moved on from that. Why am I running for sheriff? I could have kept my mouth shut and probably in the next few years be a captain or something along the lines, promote. But in the last couple of months, a lot of people have come up to me, especially my fellow deputies, and said, we need help. We need someone that cares about law enforcement, someone that believes in our Constitution to be sheriff. The current sheriff, Robert Luna, just to give you a perspective of who he is, called George Gascon many times his friend and his mentor. During the recall of George Gascon, he refused to support the recall. Proposition 36 was just passed in California. Just to give you a perspective, Proposition 36 was the one that moved back some of the provision of Proposition 47, brought back some felonies for drug use, drug dealing, and most importantly, brought back some of the penalties for theft. We all seen in the news, probably on a nightly basis, the brazen retail theft that's happening right now in our state. Proposition 36 brought back some of the provisions in order to properly fight the retail theft that's going on in the United States. Proposition 36 passed in the state of California with 10 million votes. 76% of the voters says we want this proposition. We want it in order to combat crime accordingly. There's only 5 million Republicans in California. That means that 5 million Democrats and independents agree with the Republicans that say we need tougher laws to fight the retail theft and the rampant drug use and drug abuse that's going on right now. Sheriff Robert Luna refused to support Proposition 36 because George Gascon refused to support Proposition 36. Sheriff Robert Luna did not support Hockman to become the district attorney.
What was his reason?
He doesn't give us a reason. When they ask him, do you support Proposition 36? He went and talked about how he has new buses for the inmates. Sheriff Robert Luna was elected before he was elected to be sheriff. And I believe Luna became sheriff because people did not want Alex Villanueva as sheriff. What they didn't tell you about Robert Luna was the disaster that he left behind in the city of Long Beach. The city of Long Beach up to this day is paying for multiple reforms because of the corruption that happened in Long Beach while he was the chief. During the riots, he literally let the city burn down. The only way Long Beach was safe is because the sheriff's department went in there and protected our business owners and the residents of Long Beach. He has been a disaster, and more importantly, internally, our deputy sheriffs do not have the support from their own leadership. Our deputy sheriffs are scared to do their jobs because they believe even if they do their job legally and within the law and within policy, Robert Luna is going to put them out, what we call throw them under the bus. And he's going to have a press conference like he did recently with one of our deputies, Trevor Kirk, just for doing their job, but because that's was the political decision that needs to be made. So ask yourself, who is the sheriff working for? Is he working for you, the people, or is he working for some radical group out there? Now, why should you care about the sheriff's election? We spend a lot of time talking about congressional election, obviously the presidential election and so forth. But keep in mind, the sheriff is the only time we, the people, have a say in public safety. There's no other election like that. There's no local election, there's no state election, there's definitely no federal election. When you vote for the sheriff, That is the only time where you get to say who is going to enforce the law and how the law is going to be enforced. We vote for city councils who eventually select the chief with or without your input. We vote for the governor who eventually selects the commissioner of the California Highway Patrol, definitely without your input. The sheriff is the only time we the people have a say in our public safety. That means that the sheriff works directly for you, the people. Nobody else. Constitutionally, because the sheriff is an elected position within the Constitution of the state of California, the sheriff only answers to the people, no one else. The attorney general cannot tell him what to do. The governor cannot tell him what to do. Only you, the people. The sheriff that we have right now is not answering to you. He's answering to the radical forces that put him in place. You have a question, sir?
Also, when we had issue the voting poll, sheriff is the one we call.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. The sheriff is the one who collects the ballots and drops them off on Norwalk. So the sheriff has a lot of influence on what we do on a daily basis as far as public safety. You may live in a city that has your own police department, and you may be like, oh, I couldn't care less who the sheriff is. You should. The sheriff has the biggest microphone when it comes to public safety. When the sheriff goes on TV and said X, Y, and Z about public safety, it does affect your own police department. When it comes to federal grants and so forth, it goes through the sheriff's department, most of them, not all of them, most of them. So the sheriff has a large influence in our public safety, and that's why I'm asking you to take seriously who is the sheriff. Some of you live in what we call the contract cities, and obviously you should definitely care who the sheriff is, because that sheriff is giving you direct policing in your own city. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say the contract cities
Yes.
are the key.
Correct.
Because we hire a sheriff to be our police department. We have no police department, we have no fire department. They're paid for independently within our city.
Correct. So the contract cities, sorry,
Okay?
the contract cities hire the sheriff's department to provide their own policing.
And they also are the best for voting too.
Yes.
We need paper ballots.
So one of the things that the sheriff does right now is, just to give you a quick scenario, a city contracts the sheriffs for policing. That city should get what they pay for. So if they pay, for example, 30 deputies, they should get 30 deputies. What the sheriff is doing right now is taking some of those items for some kind of county pet project. The city is still in the hook. And then we force our deputies to work overtime behind that position. Our deputies are overworked. Our deputies are tired. They're mandated to work absolutely incredible amount of overtime. They're tired. When deputies are tired, you're not getting the policing you deserve or the policing that you're paying for. I'm going to stop that. If a contract city pays for 30 deputies, you're getting 30 deputies. If I don't have the deputies, I'll let you know. Hey, we have a shortage right now. We don't have 30 deputies. But I'm not going to take the items from our contract city for some kind of pet project for the county. Everybody understand how contract cities work?
Yeah.
Good. All right. We are in a once-in-a-lifetime moment right here with President Donald Trump. Now remember, they told us Donald Trump will never be elected president. He proved them wrong twice. Okay? Donald Trump has opened the door for us conservatives to run and make a meaningful change in the United States, especially here in California. But I think the problem that I've seen is a lot of people are sitting back and saying, we're good, Donald Trump won. That's not the case. That's not the case, especially in California. Okay? Donald Trump only comes once in a generation. Before him, Ronald Reagan. Before that, Eisenhower. And before that, TDR, Theodore Roosevelt. Donald Trump opened the door, but it is our duty now to walk through the door and carry out the message. Donald Trump won 53% of the Latino vote and 46% of the Latina vote. That's incredible. That's a record. The last one who did that was George Bush, ladies and gentlemen. And mind you, Donald Trump ran with an anti-illegal immigration messaging. That tells you Hispanics, the whole immigration thing is not an issue for them. Public safety is. The economy is. The safety of their businesses is. The kind of school that they get for their kids. That's what they're concerned about, not illegal immigration. But if we don't take the opportunity that we have right now to turn our state around because of President Trump and a Republican Congress, we're going to lose the opportunity. The Democrats, the new Democrats that are running right now, they're taking some of the messaging from Donald Trump, tweaking it to their own, especially when it comes to public safety, especially when it comes to the economy, and they're starting to win traction on that. If we Republicans, conservatives, don't take that message, we're going to lose 2026. Donald Trump does not have 4 years. He has 2. If we don't win 2026, it doesn't matter what Trump does in the last 2 years. He won't be able to do anything. Which leads me to a local election. We spend a lot of time and money on federal elections. We talk a lot about our federal election, our congressmen and so forth. And that's okay. Those elections are important. But do not underplay your local election. Do not underplay your school board election, your sheriff election, your city council election, your board supervisor election. Remember, it was not the U.S. Congress who locked us down during COVID. It was your city council and your board supervisors. When the roads need to be fixed, it's not Congress that fixes them. It's your local officials. We have a lot of news right now about the Department of Education. Yes, Donald Trump is going to get rid of the Department of Education. That's awesome. I think it's great, by the way. I agree with it 100%. That doesn't affect your child or your grandchild. Your school board, your local school board, is what affects your children. So when I talk to those people like, hey, you know what, we're good. You know, the president's going to get rid of the DOE. Okay, that's great. Who's your school board? Well, I don't know. That's who's radicalizing your child right now. That's what we need to be concentrating on. Those local elections that has far more effect on our daily lives than the U.S. Congress does. The Congress can pass all the laws they want right now. That's great. Who's going to enforce them? Your city council. The Congress can pass all the anti-gun laws they want. Not this Congress, obviously. The next one may. Who's going to enforce them? Your local sheriff. So do not underplay your elections. The sheriff has a lot to say when it comes to the Second Amendment. A lot of chiefs defer. In fact, we have actual, when I say we, the sheriff's department has actual agreement with a lot of chiefs of police. Whereas, hey, we're not dealing with that. You guys deal with it. So even though you may live in a city with your own police department, like I said earlier, your Second Amendment enforcement in that city is within the purview of the sheriff. So those are the kind of things you have to keep in mind when it comes to the local election. So I'm asking you to take into consideration who's running for sheriff, who's running for your local school board, who's running for your local city council, and the one that we never pay attention to, who is running to be a judge. Most people don't even know who's running to be a judge when it comes to the election. But then what do? As soon as some judge makes a weird ruling, well, that's messed up. How did that happen? Well, did you vote for the person that was running against him? And I believe that's probably the best thing groups like yours, Republican groups, can do, is to educate the public when it comes to those local elections. Either by putting a local voter guide, because obviously, depending where you live, you're going to get a different ballot for different positions, different courthouses. But by educating the public, I didn't say educate Republicans, educate the public, because if you educate Democrats, you'll be surprised how many of them will change. We're going to get the results that we want. AB 379 was just discussed this week in Sacramento. AB 379 talks about human trafficking. And there was a very large discussion and argument in Sacramento about AB 379. Now you're going to be surprised what the argument was about. And forgive me if you already know this. But AB 379 talked about, should it be a felony or a misdemeanor to sell for sex a 16 or 17-year-old? Ladies and gentlemen, why are we arguing about that? That should not even be an argument. If you ask me, that's borderline death penalty. The Democrats were saying it should be a misdemeanor. I told 3 of my friends that are Democrats about that law, and they told me I will never again vote for a Democrat because they didn't know that. But we sometimes fail to educate the Democrats as well, what their own party is doing. When you tell them what their own party is doing, you'll be surprised how many of them will turn around and will re-register either as no party preference or even better yet as a Republican. But that's what we have to do. You know, if you're a Christian, it is our Christian duty to teach him about that. It's a good thing Paul is not around, because if he was, we will be getting a lot of letters in California about how we can do better to help other people. Sir?
I have a question. AB 1333, it's now formed, AB 1333
Remind me again, which one is that one?
Assembly Bill 1333, what it does is take away your individual rights to self-defense.
Yes.
It demands that you flee your house if somebody breaks in rather than you kill them.
That one fell in committee. And just to give you a short story, that one was saying that we don't have the castle doctrine in California like Florida. There's no castle doctrine. But California does allow the right to self-defense. Someone breaks into your house within your properties, you can use lethal force to destroy that threat. What that bill was going to do was saying that's illegal. You should at least wait and call the cops before that happens. Now, I don't know if you remember what I told you. We have less and less cops every day. Less people want to be cops, and especially in the sheriff's department, we're bleeding deputies out because they don't want to work for the current leadership. There's a theory called the 40 by 40. By 2040, we're going to have 40% less cops than what we have now. So definitely, we need more self-defense, not less self-defense. But thank God that bill died, but it's going to come back next year. It's going to come back next year. Yes. Immigration.
Sanctuary cities, sanctuary states.
Yes.
USC 1324 federal code, if you provide any aid to an illegal in this country, you committed a felony.
Yes.
Everybody, I think Governor Newsom, a whole bunch of people have committed a felony. I'd like to see them be arrested. I'd like to know what your stance is on that.
So here's my stance on illegal immigration. The law that governs the sanctuary state law is called SB 54, which was passed by Mr. De Leon, a great ethical man that was in the legislature. SB 54 prohibits the local sheriff's department from working with ICE, Immigration Custom Enforcement. I believe that we need to maintain SB 54, but it needs to be amended. And this is what I mean by that. As your sheriff, I will advocate for amendment to SB 54 to allow the sheriff's office to work with ICE inside the jails. The program is called 287G. It's federal law. That's where the term comes from. And what this program allows the local sheriff is that when someone gets arrested for a state crime, rape, assault, murder, whatever have you, after they serve their time, we give them to ICE to be deported if they are illegal aliens. Right now, that rapist who does probably 2 years, if that, in county, it gets released back to the community because I am not allowed to work with ICE. Now, if you ask me, when they get released, they go back to the very same community we're claiming to protect with SB 54, and they victimize them. We need to amend that. We should be able to turn them over to ICE in the jails. And then what happens when we work with ICE inside the jails? They don't have to go out into the community. They won't be arresting the wrong people, because when you go to jail, every time you move from place to place in our jail, we confirm your identity. So we know exactly who you are. So when we turn you over to ICE, we know exactly who you are, and we know that you're here illegally. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a difference between immigration and illegal immigration. I am an immigrant, and I came to this country legally. I am not an illegal immigrant. And I think it's disrespectful and offensive for immigrants who work hard to get their papers, to establish their businesses, to send their kids to school. I believe it is extremely disrespectful and offensive to say all immigrants are immigrants, whether you're illegal or not. That is not true. There's a difference. And I'm going to make sure as your sheriff, I'm advocating to protect immigrants, not illegal immigrants. Thank you. Great question. I appreciate that. Now, for the last 20 years in California, we have voted for the same party and the same ideas. This is our moment to change that. This is our moment to finally make a difference. It is our moment to carry out the message. What can you do? Because a lot of people ask me, well, what do you want me to do? There's nothing I can do. I disagree with that. There's a lot you can do. Number one, I already said it. Educate your friends, whether they're Republican or Democrats. When someone tells you, I'm a Democrat, I'm independent, don't turn them away. Teach them. You know more than the average person. By being here, I know that you know more than the average voter out there. Educate them, and you'll be surprised how many of them will change. The other one is registration. Do not underestimate voter registration. It makes a huge difference. That's why Democrats have been able to stay in power. They keep their registration higher than the Republicans. When they see that in Sacramento, that forces the Republicans not to spend money on those districts that don't have the right amount of registration. By having X amount of registration, it forces both the national and the state party to come to that district and spend money to help Republicans and conservatives get elected. So that's all you have to do. You can go to the registrar, check out a bunch of registration cards, and help people get registered or re-register, either as Democrats or as MPP. No party preference. That will make sure that the registrations are more equal. When they're more equal, it causes the Democrats to think twice about spending money in whatever race you have. Sir.
I was going to say, also for your contract cities, there are, in Temple City, we don't have an election every single turnaround within the city. So they'll keep the same mayor year after year after year. That does not provide for the replacement for that mayor.
Well,
Because you're not training up new people to be.
as far as local election,
That's what I'm.
as far as local elections, 70% of local races go uncontested every 4 years. But that's, again, the messaging that we can get out there to help people to run for office. And I'm getting my cue here that I'm running out of time. So, yes, sir, last question.
Do you have street groups set up in all the contracted cities?
As of now, yes, I'm building myself up to that. But I literally, this is my 5th week running, but I'm building myself to talk about contract cities in every contract city. That is my goal. Yes, sir.
So I live in one of those cities, and every time I go to one of my sheriff's security specialists.
So I can go to those. If it's an official LA County Sheriff's,
But we can't.
well, yes, but we can put them together. And if I can have you help with that, I greatly appreciate it.
I should hear a sheriff letting in my neighborhood says, Scott, whenever you go there, just tell them, communicate your favorite line. Elections have consequences.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So, like I said, I just want to close. This is our momentum for conservatives to run. This is our momentum to get the message across that people are waking up. COVID was a great tragedy, but it was also a great blessing. It opened the eyes of a lot of people. And we are losing the momentum. We need to take that momentum. We need to run with it, educate people, get people to register either as Republicans, or if they're not comfortable with that, deregister for the Democratic Party, and that's going to affect their pocketbook. Those are the kind of things that we can do. And of course, I'm running for sheriff. I hope I have your vote. I hope that you can volunteer for my campaign, and I hope on your way out, if you don't mind giving me a contribution. LA County is bigger than a lot of states population-wise, so it takes money. It takes a lot of money, but I know that with your support, your financial support, and most of all, with your prayers, that we can go ahead and take back the Sheriff's Department for we the people. Thank you very much.
And what's your website?
You can go to my website, Oscar for Sheriff, Oscar, the number 4, sheriff.com. I have some cards there. You can just, hit the QR. It'll take you there, and it'll take you to the donation page as well.
And your election is in June?
All the elections are June 2nd of next year. That's the primary. From the primary, the top 2 for all the elections, most of your local elections end in the primary. For the top 2, they go to the general election, which is in November. Okay. Remember, California, we have the top 2. Thanks to Mr. Schwarzenegger, the top 2, we lost the whole Republican-Democrat thing. Hopefully, we can change that someday. But before we change that, we got to get in power first.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.